We finally got to see how successful Gushing Over Magical Girls actually was as an anime, thanks to its sales coming out earlier today for the first week of its BD DVD release, and honestly, it's pretty fascinating information that we got, especially when you stack it up against something like Frieren right here, but also other statistics that we've had for, a while now. It's pretty fascinating. So let's just get headfirst into this. So what this is currently covering, this information, is the first week of the sales for BD and DVD sales. Now, I'm assuming this is just obviously Japanese sales because it only released in Japan. So this is not including stuff eventually when it is released in the West or different countries, etc. It's not counting those sales. It's only counting the first week in terms of just the copies in demand that was sold. And at first glance, if you know nothing about this, for instance, 8,114 copies doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you factor in the prices of these BDs, like, each individual copy can range from, like, maybe 150, 200, maybe even more dollars just for a volume release. This is not including the follow-up releases. For instance, when it comes to these releases of BD DVDs for anime, usually they release, like, the first 2 to 3 episodes within it, and then you have to wait for Volume 2 to come out, which will be the next 2 to 3 episodes. So, it's always in batches that they release their anime, and collectors go out of their way to buy this. So, having 8,000 copies sold is not necessarily a bad thing by any means. It's just, it seems low, but it legitimately isn't. But the point of the matter is that we got to look at the statistics of what it stacks up with in terms of marketing, etc. And let's look at that. So, if we look at Frieren here, this is the first week of Frieren's Blu-ray DVD copies that were sold, which is 6,326 copies. Now, once again, this is just the first week. This is not including the follow-up weeks. This is not including, the other volumes, etc. Just the first week. And if you cross-comparison, it definitely seems like, in terms of success, Gushing Over Magical Girls definitely had a lot more sales than Frieren. Now, I think one of the big indicators of why this is probably because of the uncensored nature that Gushing Over Magical Girls has. Anyone that has probably seen clips of it or has watched the series definitely knows that there is a lot of uncensored content, and anyone that's probably wanting to get the series is definitely going to get the uncensored version, and usually when it comes to Blu-ray DVD releases, they're fixed up higher quality versions of the initial TV broadcast, so it's just going to look all around a lot better. So it makes a lot of sense why more people would be inclined to pick up Gushing Over Magical Girls than the standard Blu-ray copy of a series because of just the very nature of what's actually within it. But that, is obviously just one thing to point out, but we also got to point out the other statistics, which is like JJK here, Apothecary Diaries, Shield Hero. We kind of see how it stacks up to these other big name series, in particular JJK. And JJK is a big standout because obviously, it's very popular. It's made a lot of waves. Everybody was talking about it last year. Let's just not joke about that. Let's just be honest. It was really, really popular. And 10,000 copy sales is pretty high. And obviously, Gushing Over Magical Girls isn't as high as that, but it is relatively close from just 2,000 copies shy. So it does seem like in terms of just sell-wise, it did very good. Like, Gushing Over Magical Girls did exceptionally well for basically zero marketing. Like, I mean, let's be completely blunt here. Anyone that was watching anime for this last season, Gushing Over Magical Girls basically came out of nowhere. The only people that were probably really hyped for it was just the actual fans, and it was a really niche community. And obviously, a lot more people have been introduced to this series, and it's definitely become a lot more popular. But overall, I don't think in terms of marketing, it had as much as probably something like, JJK would have. So, the fact that it sold 8,000 copies, pretty impressive. Shout outs to Gushing Over Magical Girls, honestly, coming out of nowhere to really just prove itself that, it is kind of successful, and people want more content like this. Now, let's get into the whole Frieren thing, because I know I'm going to attach that to the title, so let's dive into this. Now, why did Frieren sales have only 6,000 copies? Well, to factor this all in, it's not bad. This is not a bad sales number by any means. It's just, you gotta remember, this is the first volume, and on top of that, Frieren in terms of its releases, it's going to be like the first or, 2 episodes. And it's not like necessarily anything that's going to be super, super intense, like maybe the Aura versus Frieren stuff and all that. So it's mainly just going to be the beginning of the story, and only really collectors at the time is going to pick it up. And I think Frieren really just started to pop off as a series probably around February. I think that is when the series really just grew in terms of popularity and community discussion, was around February. And if we look at the date of this post, it was back in January, so a little bit earlier or shy of when it really exploded and everybody was talking about it. So I feel like, in terms of sales after this, it's probably going to be a lot higher. But, overall, it's very fascinating. I really am fascinated by just these sales numbers of Gushing Over Magical Girls and just how it sold so well. Because, I mean, it speaks for itself. It may just be Blu-ray DVDs. This is not including, like, merchandising and the streaming, etc. But I'm glad to see the series is legitimately successful. It outsold Frieren, which I think, like I said, it speaks volumes. But once again, it also could be attributed to the fact that it has a lot of uncensored content, which is why there is so many more sales than, let's say, something like Frieren. But, yeah, I want to talk about this because, I was curious to see just how successful Gushing was going to be, and it seems like Japan legitimately does like the show. It is not a show that, was overlooked. It seems to be enjoyed. I mean, look at the cover art of this. Not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna import it myself because I really like the box art, I really like what the series was, and I would like to have more of this series in particular, so I probably will be importing Gushing Over Magical Girls, very soon. But once again, just, yeah, shout-outs to the success of Gushing, and once again, I am curious to see how Frieren's sales stack up, once Volume 2, 3, etc. comes out. I'm curious on how it's going to be when it finally gets to the Aura episode that is released on it. But, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. Just wanted to talk about it. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.